If the color guard would present the colors.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to welcome Pack 135, Troop 87, Troop 431, Troop 206, Troop 985, the Troop and Crew of 2006, Troop 989, Pack 985, Crew 1, and Troop 629 to the City Council meeting. This time I'd like to ask Ricky Spencer to come forward and tell us about Brandon Paget, who is up here with us.
Thank you, Mayor Wood and Council. I've been asked to speak tonight on behalf of a young man who done some heroic things at his home. And December, I think, in 2008, his mother collapsed. And he went into action, did what he had learned in the Boy Scouts, may have learned some at school, and did some resuscitative measures on his mother. And I think they were very successful, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
And I would just like to say that we appreciate the Boy Scouts of America, and we're glad they're all here today. For 100 years, and over 100 years, a lot of things have changed. I know that they learn more today than they did when Mayor Wood, you and I were in the Boy Scouts, which was just a few years ago. And we really appreciate the Boy Scouts taking the lead and learning how to do CPR, resuscitative efforts, Heimlich maneuvers, recognizing when someone's in need, and performing and doing what needs to be done. So, Brandon, we appreciate what you've done. I know that you'll do it again if you get the chance.
Sure.
And on behalf of the City of Roswell and the Roswell Fire Department, I'd like to present you with one of these caps. These caps are world-renowned. People all over the world want them, but we just give them to special people. So I hope you wear it proudly. Thank you so much. Mayor Wood, I think this is a good photo op for the mayor and council with Brandon.
All right, Brandon, if you'll stay up here and if you bring your father up for the photo op. I don't see your mother in the audience.
No, sir, she couldn't make it.
We'd love to get our picture taken.
Now squeeze in as close as you can get.
Jerry Wood in the Boy Scout uniform. I'll take a picture of that.
Thank you.
Ricky Spencer made the comment that things have changed over the last 100 years. Well, they have changed in the last 30 years. I'm wearing my my Boy Scout leader. I wasn't the leader. I was a unit commissioner, but my uniform from 30 years ago, as you can see, the color has changed from 30 years ago. But I haven't changed. I still fit in the uniform. And I'm proud to have been a Eagle Scout and a member of Troop 87, who is here tonight. Great troop. Councilman Orleans is a long-standing Boy Scout, but he can't fit into his uniform anymore.
Cub Scout, Boy Scout, I can't find my uniform. I just want to make sure you understand that is not his uniform when he was actually a Boy Scout.
And it's my privilege to read a proclamation. Whereas the Boy Scouts of America, a volunteer organization, was incorporated by Chicago publisher William D. Boyce on February 8, 1910, after learning of the scouting movement during a visit to London, and that is 100 years ago today. And whereas on June 21st, 1910, a group of 34 national representatives met, developed organizational plans, and opened a temporary national headquarters in New York. And whereas by 1912, Boy Scouts were enrolled in every state, and in 1916, the United States granted the Boy Scouts of America a federal charter. And whereas there have been more than 111 million members of Scouting, and the organization has printed their 2 millionth Eagle Scout Award in 2009. And whereas each council commits each Scout to perform at least 12 hours of community service yearly, totaling more than 30 million hours of community service every year. And whereas the Boy Scouts of America endeavor to develop United States citizens to have a high degree of self-reliance, is evidenced in such qualities as initiative, courage, and resourcefulness, have the desire and skills to help others take pride in their American heritage and understand our nation's role in the world, have respect for the basic rights of all people, and are prepared to participate and give leadership to the American society. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of Roswell, do hereby proclaim February 8, 2010 is Boy Scouts of America Day in Roswell, in celebration of the Boy Scouts of America 100th anniversary, and urge all of the citizens of Roswell to join in this celebration and acknowledge our youth and young adults who are members and contribute goodwill to our communities. Let's have another hand for the Boy Scouts. They're a great organization. John Rowland, did you want to come up and say something? You're our exec. What is your title, John?
District Executive.
District Executive. He's the guy in charge.
We have a presentation to give as well. We have 4 of our youth will come and help us with our tree presentation, and we have a little script for them. Be very brief, and then we like to have the boys line up if we may and get a photo op.
Absolutely. John, Kay is telling me you need to stand next to that microphone if you're going to be speaking.
Get on a handheld mic.
She doesn't understand Boy Scouts are used to speaking in large crowds with no microphone out in the woods. So
Us Girl Scouts didn't do that. So.
Okay, our first Eagle. Thank you, Roswell City Council, Mayor Wood, citizens of Roswell, family and friends of the Chattahoochee District, and Boy Scouts of America. My name is Tyler Steindorf. We are here tonight to dedicate 4 centennial oak trees to be planted in Roswell to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Boy Scouts of America and to celebrate the scouting adventure in our district. In 2009, our district served over 1,800 youth members, honored 39 new Eagle Scouts, and earned a prestigious Centennial Quality District Award from the National Council of the Boy Scouts of America for our local scouting program in Roswell. The Chattahoochee District has challenged its local units to plant 100 trees by the end of 2010 in honor of the celebration, so organizations and sites around Roswell can expect many more trees to be planted this year. We dedicate these centennial oak trees to continue our journey as Scouts.
good job.
Good evening. I am Life Scout Justin Hill from Troop 206, and since February 8, 1910, the Boy Scouts of America have built character and values-based leadership qualities in our youth. They provided a platform for strengthening families, and as a core of scouting, we continue to teach and practice responsible environmental living and conservation of natural resources.
My name is Zach Rosenberg from Pack 135. This tree represents the future growth, creating shade, becoming a home for animals or insects, a place to play under, even nurturing the earth with fallen leaves as the seasons pass, and measuring time by the rings formed in its trunk.
My name is Austin Shaw. We would like to thank the Home Depot Foundation for donating this oak tree to honor our 100th anniversary. We'd also like to thank the City of Roswell for allowing us to celebrate this great occasion with you. On this 8th day of February 2010, we do hereby dedicate this tree to the community and our friends here in the city of Roswell, Georgia, and to the 100th anniversary of the Boy Scouts of America. May this tree grow straight and strong.
Thank you, City Commission. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Young men, if y'all would come and line up in front of the City Commissioners in an orderly fashion, if we may. We will have all the young men line up in front of the City Commission, and we will take a picture.
I think we're just going to stand up. Let's just stand up back right here in the middle.
Over here, let's sort of get Becky. They won't want this. They're in charge. Let's stand right back.
You're the leader, man. New Eagle Scout.
Hey, let's bring the Cub Scouts up to the front here so the big tall guys don't block them out. Tall guys in the back.
I think that's good.
Hey guys, bring the banner around the front. That banner needs to come in front of the nobody will ever see it. Can't break a tree.
The mic. Sorry. Anyway, I was just going to share, especially since all of you Boy Scouts are here in Georgia. I know you get out to some other areas, but it's an interesting little story that I've shared with my son. Where's Avery? Avery, raise your hand. There he is, right there. He's heard this story. I don't know if he believes it or not.
But when I was a Boy Scout, I was a scout in Michigan. And I mean, there's a lot of things I've forgotten about scouting, but the one thing I remember is my troop master had a cabin in northern Michigan. And we went up there in the middle of winter to go camping. And we had to shovel snow that was above our waist in order to set up our tents. It was that much snow and that cold. And then we had the old trick of putting the bricks into the campfire, heating them up, wrapping them in newspaper, and sticking them in the bottom of our sleeping bag. And they would actually stay warm all night long. So I don't know how many times you guys have gotten out in the cold down here, but that's one of the little adventures that we used to do quite a bit up in Michigan, and it was fun. I just wanted to share that with you guys tonight. But thanks for coming out here. Councilmember Price.
I just wanted to say something since my son had gone through the program here in Roswell. He was in PAC 845, and any 845 kids here? No? No 845? Yeah, there's a hand. Okay, and then he went into Troop 431. I know there's some 431 folks here. Where are the 431s? Yay, all right. And I see a few Eagles here, too. And
Let's have the Eagles raise their hand. Good job.
All right. I would just like to encourage those of you who are on the trail to Eagle or thinking about becoming an Eagle. You'll make your mother very happy. So I've got my mother's sash on here, which includes an Eagle badge. So make your mothers happy and go the distance, okay?
Thank you. Now you're just... John Rowland.
Does this mean they're going to close the meeting to discuss this?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
They go into closure, which they actually usually do over in room 220.
Well, I guess there's no reason for me to be here then, if that's what I wanted to hear. Okay.
Okay.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Becky Wynn. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions about the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Councilman Eigelhart is absent with an excuse tonight. We'll call upon Councilmember Betty Price to call the community development agenda.
The first item up is approval of a resolution adopting the urban redevelopment plan and boundary map for the purpose of applying for the Opportunity Zone Program, and Alice Wakefield, Director of Community Development, will come forward, please.
Zone Program. This is a request to ask Council to approve the resolution along with the redevelopment plan, which includes the boundary map. Since the last public hearing on February the 1st, we have tweaked the map a little to clean the boundary lines to be more in line with the opportunity zone criteria. We have documented all of the data that's within the document and made recommended changes to the document, minor changes. We've also gathered information that is not actually required at this time, but it is part of the pending legislation to update the law. So with that said, we ask Council to approve this resolution along with the redevelopment plan, which includes the boundary map.
Excuse me, can you turn on your mic?
If you look at the map, you have the orange, which is the qualifying census block, and then you have the adjacent property, which is the yellow. That both areas make up the urban redevelopment plan boundary. Within those areas, you will see bold purple lines, and that represents those properties that will be eligible to benefit from this opportunity zone. And those are areas where there's potential for redevelopment and the creation of jobs.
Does the council have any questions for Ms. Wakefield? Thank you. This time I'd like to call Brandon Beach back to the microphone. Brandon, this was his, he brought this idea to the city council. We're going to be asking Brandon to write a letter in support of this. And Brandon, anything you'd like to add?
No, we covered it all last week. I just would ask for your full support of this. I think it's a win-win for Roswell and for the citizens of Roswell and for the business community, and it'll really do well. And it gives us a tool in our toolbox, like I said, for economic development, revitalization. And also, I can tell you, wearing my DOT hat, if we can prove that we can recreate and create more jobs there, we'll be able to tie it into roads and building new roads and bridges and so on in that area, especially Kimberly Clark is what I'm thinking of. So anyway, I just would ask for your support. We will write a letter, the chamber, and we're in full support. I have Al Nash with me, who also was involved in this process. Al, thank you for all your hard work. Penn Hodge could not be here tonight, but we're just really excited about this. So, and I would just ask for your full support on it. Thank you very much.
Is Executive Director of our Chamber of Commerce. Can you assure me we're going to get some new jobs out of this?
I can tell you, $3,500 tax credits for 5 years, I think we're going to do very well. It's proven it's done well in Union City, and I know that I've talked to Senator Chip Rogers, and they're working on one in Cherokee County, and he already knows that when the district's done, they're going to have 500 jobs. So we will work this, I promise you.
Thank you, Brandon.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? This is a public hearing on the Opportunity Zone application. Seeing no hands up, do we have a motion? Oh, did we already have a motion? No. Oh, motion. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Price, second by Councilmember Diamond. Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Brandon, Al, thank you for bringing this to us. Alice Wakefield, thank you and staff for putting together the map in this presentation. I've sent out letters today to our state representatives and to Brandon and to Al and to Congressman Price, asking them all for their support on this. And I encourage all the council, if they see our state representatives, to Talk it up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Price, back to you.
The next item is approval of a resolution for a change in scope of the 2010 Community Development Block Grant for the Grove Way Community Project, formerly the Arts Village Infrastructure Project. Again, Alice Wakefield. Thank you.
In September of 2008, the Mayor and Council approved an application for the 2010 CDBG funds to provide infrastructure improvement in the area referred to at that time as Arts Village neighborhood. It is currently referred to as the Grove Way community. The application is in the amount of $462,448. It was approved for water and stormwater improvements in the neighborhood. There are other ready-to-proceed infrastructure projects in Grove Way community that do not involve water or stormwater infrastructure improvements. This is a request for a change in scope which will allow utility and transportation infrastructure improvement. This request is very important because of the desire of Fulton County and HUD to expedite the expenditure of funds.
Does the council have any questions for Ms. Wakefield? Yes, sir, Mr. DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Wakefield, the improvements are still going to be in the same general area. They're just not the ones that we had specified before?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So they'll still be in the Grove Way?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the resolution.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Price. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item, approval of a resolution to apply to Fulton County for a change of scope on the Sway Branch Drive CDBG project. Alice Wakefield.
Okay, the same as mentioned before, this is a CDBG project, and staff has requested approval of a resolution to change the scope of the project and to allow the project to be re-advertised as the Sway Branch Infrastructure Project in order for the CDBG funds to be used for either the road project or the pond project. This resolution is needed to revise the scope of work for block grant to provide the extension of the Sway Branch Drive to Marketplace.
Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the resolution.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Price. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion? Passes unanimously.
Next item is the final plat for Park East at Crabapple, presented by Brad Townsend, Planning and Zoning Director.
Thank you. This is a proposed final plat for Park East at Crabapple. It's located on Crabapple, just south of the middle school on the west side of Crabapple, being subdivided into 19 single-family homes with a detention pond. There's a one access and a cul-de-sac. This is an aerial prior to the property being subdivided for this location. There were 3 variances being requested as part of this development. The blue variance was approved by council as part of the rezoning. The area in red was approved administratively, which is a rear setback for the property next to the park. The green dots are variances to the lot frontage or the lot setback on the front, dealing with the minimum lot size requirement to provide a consistency around the cul-de-sac for the development. This development has been reviewed by the city engineer. There is the developer here this evening if you have questions of him. There were a couple of recommended conditions to help kind of finalize the development by the city engineer. Those deal with removal of trash on the property, which should have been removed by now. There was a request by the Transportation Department that the diamonds that are placed in the bikeway be removed. All the other conditions are placed on the plat, including the performance bonds, landscaping and pavement bonds, and these conditions could be recommended this evening for approval and be completed prior to us issuing a permit for any development on the property. If you have questions of the developer or the engineer, they are here this evening. Staff would recommend approval of the final plat with these conditions.
Does the council have any questions for staff? Councilman Orleans.
Fred, we have what being requested tonight. I don't have anything from the original rezoning. What is different tonight than what was approved in the rezoning process, if anything? Just is a 60-foot setback?
Just that's the only change from the original approved preliminary plat, correct, and the rezoning.
And how were those lots set up on the original plat?
There was a confusion between when the engineer initially drafted the plat and his determination of providing minimum lot frontage. The minimum lot frontage, and going back to the drawing, is if you look at all of the lots.
Do you have the previous site plan now?
Previous plan?
Or maybe you can go ahead and describe what the difference is.
What is happening is the minimum requirement is an 85-foot lot width, and that is measured at the building setback line of the lots. The engineer only felt that that was a requirement where we have a minimum public right-of-way of 25 feet. So around the cul-de-sac, he squeezed all of the lots and maintained the front setback at 35 feet, but didn't have the minimum lot width of 85 feet.
So then these lot lines are not changing. It was only a screw up on his thought process that is causing this then?
Yes.
And I guess just looking at quick look at the plot, lots 9 and 10, I mean, there's still room within those build lines to actually build a house?
That's why we moved the front setback. If it was to make the 85 foot, instead of 60 feet back, they'd be closer to 75 to 80 feet back from the front. So these provide additional building area for those individual lots around the cul-de-sac.
And I guess I'm reading it just 10 feet on the sides is all that is there to build in, right?
Right. 10-foot side setbacks.
And that's more than sufficient to...
Yes. That's our current code requirement for that. Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure and clarify all that. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for staff? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Townsend, there's a pedestrian access easement to the park. Is there an easement that has been given to the city for that?
Yes.
Is that made to the city of Roswell? As this says, Roswell Area Park. Just want to confirm that was...
The easement should be to the city of Roswell, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, the easement's given to the city to access to our park. Picture's over there.
It does say access easement, so.
Okay.
What was that?
She was questioning whether it was identified as an access easement. And it's 10 feet wide from the cul-de-sac to the park, which was a condition of rezoning.
Any other questions? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just trying to get clarification from Mr. Davidson about how that access easement needs to read, because apparently he hasn't seen an actual easement for that. Just want to make sure we have that documented properly.
Okay.
Mr. Davidson, could you clarify?
They can dedicate an easement to the city, and it looks like they are dedicating a 10-foot wide pedestrian access easement to Roswell Area Park, but it doesn't say it's to the city of Roswell. It says it's the property of the Park East on Crabapple Homeowners Association. So I don't know if it's supposed to be to the city of Roswell or if it's
The intention was it to be to the city of Roswell.
From the plat, it says that it's
Right.
to the Homeowners Association, not the city.
Well, can we conditionally approve this subject to a deed, an easement being recorded to us?
They could just change it on the plat itself.
You're talking about right now?
Or they can redraft it.
Well, we want to try to get it approved tonight.
You can approve the condition.
All right, we could approve it conditioned upon
them making that change.
All right, you want to give Councilmember Price the specific language she needs to make in that motion?
It would just be a dedication of the 10-foot wide pedestrian access easement from the Park East on Crabapple to the city of Roswell.
It'd be conditioned upon that dedication.
Correct.
Other questions for staff? Is the applicant here tonight? Could you come forward for us, please? Have you reviewed the conditions recommended by staff?
Yes, first two will be taken care of this week.
Are those conditions acceptable to you?
Yes, number 3 is already in place.
Right. Does the staff have any questions for the applicant? I mean, does the council have any questions for applicant? Thank you, sir. Do we have a motion?
I move approval of the final plat for Park East at Crabapple with the 10-foot wide easement to the city of Roswell. Does it need to be more specific than that?
Mr. Davidson, is that specific enough?
Yeah.
They're saying yes.
Yes, it's specific enough. Do we have a second? Motion by Councilmember Price for approval with the condition of a dedication of the easement to the city, and a second by Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember DiPolito.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to clarify that the approval is also conditioned on the 3 conditions added by staff for the final plat approval.
Is that correct, Mrs. Price? Conditioned upon staff's condition.
That should be part of the motion is acceptance of the conditions of staff.
Is that acceptable, Mrs. Wynn?
Yes, sir.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Councilmember Price.
Next item is RZ 09-17 text amendment to Article 22, Section 22.7 of the Roswell zoning ordinance regarding nonconforming signs, and this is the second reading of Brad Townsend.
Yes, thank you. This is the second reading of a text amendment to amend Section 22.7 of the Roswell sign code dealing with nonconforming signs. This is clarifying language relating to billboards. Also includes information relating to technology. It was recommended approval by the Planning Commission. Staff is recommending an approval of RZ 09-17 on second reading.
Mr. Davidson, would you read the ordinance?
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend Article 22, signs of the zoning ordinance of the city of Roswell. Now therefore be it ordained and is hereby ordained by the Mayor and Council of the City of Roswell, Georgia, pursuant to their authority as follows. Article 22, Signs, Section 22.7, Nonconforming Signs of the Zoning Ordinance of the City of Roswell, Georgia is hereby amended by deleting subsection A in its entirety and substituting therefore a new subsection A to read as follows. Text of which is incorporated herein by reference. In Article 22, Signs, Section 22.7, Nonconforming Signs is further amended by deleting subsection B in its entirety and substituting therefore a new subsection B to read as follows. Text again of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this would be the second reading.
Do we have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Price. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The next item is RZ 09-18, text amendment regarding revisions to the public notice requirements for rezoning and other applications. And this is the first reading. Mr. Townsend?
Yes, thank you. This is a request to amend the text for rezonings as well as other applications to require a public notice be sent to 300 feet of property which is requesting those notices. We're notifying the surrounding property owners within 300 feet for variances, rezonings, application, also including other applications for design review board that are appealed. This will require that staff create a notice, and we have already instituted this policy and are notifying people within 300 feet. The Planning Commission recommended approval of the proposed text amendment. This is the first reading. Staff would recommend approval of the text amendment to notify within 300 feet.
Mr. Davidson, if you'd read the ordinance, please.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the public notice requirements in Article 31 and Article 12 of the zoning ordinance of the City of Roswell and Article 21 of the City Code of the City of Roswell. Now therefore be it ordained and is hereby ordained by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Roswell, Georgia, pursuant to their authority as follows. Article 31, Amendments, Zoning Procedures, and Permits, Chapter 31.1, Amendments and Zoning Procedures is hereby amended by adding a new Section 31.1.21C, notice to surrounding property owners to read as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference. Article 31, Amendments, Zoning Procedures and Permits, Chapter 31.2, Design Plans, Section 31.2.19, Appeal of Design Review Board Decision is hereby amended as follows. Text again of which is incorporated herein by reference. Article 31, Zoning Procedures and Permits, Chapter 31.3, Certificate of Appropriateness, Section 31.3.13, and Notice to Surrounding Property Owners is hereby amended as follows. Text of which is incorporated herein by reference. Article 31, Amendments, Zoning Procedures and Permits, Chapter 31.3, Certificate of Appropriateness, Section 31.3.14, and Public Hearing is hereby amended as follows. Text again of which is incorporated herein by reference. Article 31, Amendments, Zoning Procedures and Permits, Chapter 31.3, Certificate of Appropriateness, Section 31.3.18, Appeals is hereby amended as follows. The text of which is incorporated herein by reference. Article 31, Zoning Procedures and Permits, Chapter 31.4, Variances is hereby amended by adding a new section, 31.4.7, Notice to Surrounding Property Owners, with the renumbering of the existing section 31.4.7 through 31.4.12 to 31.4.8 to 31.4.13 to read as follows, the text of which is incorporated herein by reference. Article 31, Amendments, Zoning Procedures and Permits, Chapter 31.6, Appeals of Administrative Decisions, Section 31.6.3, Procedures, is hereby amended as follows, the text of which is incorporated herein by reference, and I'm getting close to being done. Article 12, Parkway Village, Section 12.2.6, Variances for Hardships, is hereby amended as follows, the text of which is incorporated herein by reference. Article 12, Parkway Village, Section 12.2.10, non-single family small tract requirement is hereby amended as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference. In Article 21.2, Standards for Wireless Communication Facilities, Section 21.2.6B, Approval Process of the Roswell City Code is hereby amended as follows. Text again of which is incorporated herein, and if approved, this will be the first reading of the ordinance.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Price for approval of the first reading. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments about this ordinance, which would expand the number of people who have to be notified in the event of a zoning change? Further discussion by council. Any further discussion? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Townsend, there were a number of comments made by the Planning Commission on this ordinance, most of which seem to be pretty reasonable. Has staff taken a look at those and made a determination as to whether they would recommend those comments?
In review of the comments made by the Planning Commission, staff did review them. None of them really changed the intent of the notice within 300 feet. They were more housekeeping items which could be included or not included for, this first reading. Some of them, under legal counsel, shouldn't be changed in dealing with some of the dates where we have 35 days. There's a reason for us to have 35 days, so there were some of those changes that weren't recommended. It would be up to the council whether they felt that they should include these changes or not.
Well, since we're changing the ordinance, I would think it would be appropriate to make the housekeeping changes as well.
Okay.
Except for where legal feels they're not appropriate, of course.
What, if you could mention what these house cleaning, these changes are?
We can pull that up on the screen in a second.
Yes, Councilmember Diamond.
Mr. Townsend, while we're on that, I know we had this conversation a little bit this afternoon. It might be helpful when there's a list, and maybe you do this normally, and I'm just new at this, but when there's a list of things or recommendations.
I'm trying to pull that list straight up.
Yeah, but as we come to that, maybe if you could enumerate when we get the packet what the reasoning was for not using those recommendations, that might help alleviate that down the road.
We could go over these items one at a time, and which ones you're saying
okay,
we don't need to include or shouldn't be included.
Okay. Item number 1 is a 30-day calendar. Number of days is consistent of all items. I don't think that one changes anything. I should leave it at 30 days. The request of item number 2 was for the city to refund a fee. I believe that section of that. When there was appeal of a DRB or an HPC and it was not, when it was granted, the request was to refund the fee. There's no reason for staff to refund a fee when we've already expended the effort for notices and publications and things like that. So that one wouldn't be, I would not recommend that one be included. Number
would it
three,
be possible to say that it would be up to council's discretion whether to refund the fee?
and that would probably happen at time when the hearing was being taken place, but that is up to council at the time. I wouldn't put that in an ordinance that a fee is refundable.
Well, what I'm saying is, rather than saying the fee is automatically refundable, just say that refunding the fee is at the discretion of council.
That would have to be language that should be added to the ordinance then.
I mean, some cases, and sometimes it's appropriate to refund the appeal, and sometimes it's not.
Right.
Next item.
Number 3.
Wait a minute, just one question first. Mr. Mayor, am I missing, the fee is just strictly based on the filing and the time that it takes for us to process it, is it not?
Yes.
So, I mean, whether they were successful or not.
Well, the theory is in some cases the appeal was warranted in a sense an error was made by staff and or the HBC, and we overruled them and felt we should correct a mistake. In other cases, it was a judgment call, and we just second-guessed their judgment. So I could see in some circumstances, I would say, well, in this case, we should refund their appeal because they should have appealed. We made the wrong decision. In other cases, it's more of a judgment call, and I'm just suggesting that is an option.
But rather than putting it in an ordinance, couldn't we just have, I mean, that could be part of the appeal. I mean, at the time it's determined that could be part of the decision to refund them a fee.
That's possible, yes, sir.
Anyway.
Okay, the next item, number 3, the description is reasonable time. There was a question of who determines the reasonable time. Staff recommended it be left as it currently states. Number 4, the Historic Preservation Commission shall take action, which is on page 2 of section 3.
Well, I guess in response to 4, is that a change you think we need to make, or is it?
No, I don't believe so.
You're not recommending we make that change?
Correct. Number 5, affected materially. I don't recommend we change that. Number 6, 30 days. Should stay at 30 days. Number 7, 35 days. Should stay there. Number 8, 32 days should remain there. Number 9, which is on page 4. This was a recommendation for rewording the first sentence in section 7. Which really, staff would probably recommend that one take place because it does change the wording and make it more accurate.
So you're supporting
number 9.
Question.
Yes.
Where were they proposing to insert that?
I think they were rereading the first sentence, page 4, section 7.
You mean the sentence starting specifically?
Yeah, I think we've got.
Oh, a reasonable time? No. That's incorporating our change, though, without incorporating it.
In section 7, the first sentence that they're requesting it to read, an appeal received and all papers constituting the record relating to the action appeals shall set forth be transmitted. And then the rest of the sentence by the zoning director to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Any other questions about item 9?
I still don't see where you are. Oh, the very, okay. Gotcha.
I think they took the.
Brad, that number 9 is actually on page 3.
Yeah. It's on
Starts
page
on
3?
Page 3, yeah.
Okay.
This copy.
Okay, any other questions about 1 through 9? Councilmember Price.
I think I would tend to agree with the Planning Commission on item number 7 in their comments, in that if they claim they don't have a secretary, it's hard to ask the secretary to do something. So I would suggest we just delete that word or replace it with staff, zoning staff.
Okay.
Does it appear somewhere else as well? Yes, it does. Towards the end of section 7, the board's secretary, again, we could say that zoning commission staff. Is that right?
I believe in the code the way it used to read. I don't know if it still does this. It used to say that the secretary of the board was the staff member.
Okay.
I don't know if it still says that now since the zoning change.
If it's defined that way, then it really doesn't matter.
All right. Among items 1 through 9, so staff is recommending that they not change with the exception of 9? Is
Yes.
that the summary?
Yes.
Further questions that council may have for staff? Yes, Councilmember Diamond.
Yes, I'm still looking at the number 4, the Historic Preservation Commission shall take action when it's not actually them doing it, if we're cleaning it up. Would it make more sense to have that be a staff thing if people just come in and are reading it that don't know that that really isn't staff or isn't really commission?
That's what's confusing. That's written. Something that's different. Is it different from what they're looking at too?
Prior to reviewing an application for certificate, HPC shall take such action as may reasonably be required to inform the owners. Planning Commission said the staff should do that, not the HPC.
So on page 2, section 3, prior to reviewing the application for certificate of appropriateness, it should be the staff shall take such action as may reasonably be required to inform the owner, instead of the HPC commission informing the owner. Right.
Other suggested changes that council may have?
Well, again, doesn't that depend on other definitions elsewhere in the ordinances and how that's set up?
Right.
And of course, you'll check those out, right?
Yes.
Other suggested changes before we accept a motion? Do we have a motion?
I move we approve the first reading of RZ 09-18 text amendment regarding revisions to the public notice requirements for rezoning and other applications, with consideration given to comments made by the Planning Commission and as discussed this evening.
I'm not sure if consideration tells them what you really want to do other than, are you deferring to their judgment when you say consideration? Or are you
I'm
suggesting
still
changes?
thinking that there may need to be some discussion on whether staff or secretary needs to be there, so I don't want to be real specific at this time.
So he was suggesting change in 9. Do you want to make the changes he suggested in 9?
Including the suggestion to incorporate comment number 9 from the Planning Commission.
So we're going to make the change that in 9, and we're going to look at the language of what a secretary is and definitions to see if, to make sure that the HPC individual members are not tasked with a job, but the commission or the secretary or the staff is tasked with that job.
Correct, in section 3 and in section 7.
Brad, do you understand what the council wants to do now?
Yes.
All right, we've got. He understands what you want to do, even if you don't.
I do. Are you having a problem?
Even if I don't. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Yes, sir. Was that? Yes, come forward, please. That was a hesitant.
It just seems really dumb that we're, sorry, 32 calendar days. I've noticed in other sections you have calendar days versus just days. So do you want to be specific in calling out calendar days? And is that the assumption that everywhere else it's not business days?
Yes.
Do you want to call it out since you call it out in one section, just be consistent everywhere else? That's my only comment.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll hear from our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is a recommendation for closure to discuss the acquisition of real estate.
Do we have a motion for closure? Motion by Councilmember Becky Wynn. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We're adjourned. Thank you for coming tonight. Boy Scouts, congratulations on 100 years of training boys and raising men.